welcome to Dream It, Dare It, Do It. It is today the last episode of this season 1 podcast of Dream It, Dare It, Do It. Live the life you love, live the life you want. And today I have my friend Nina Lockwood. Hi, Nina.
Hi, it's so good to be here with you again.
It is it's going to be so much fun. Nina and I are going to chat with you guys about creating. Those of you who have followed me on Facebook and Instagram know that I hosted a webinar called 2021 An Inspired Year. And we're basically going to talk about, the source of inspiration and where are, what are dreams and how do we create? And Nina, as you can see from her backdrop, now those of you listening on audio, you can't see it, but go to my YouTube channel and you will see it. Nina is a creative. So this is like your workshop.
It is.
Yeah.
So this side of the room is where my computer is and my writing desk and my non-paint side of the room. But then I get to turn around and mess around with paints and paper and all sorts of peculiar things that strike my fancy at any given time.
All right. Okay. Well, I've seen it before, obviously, because, we've been around each other for a while now.
Yeah.
I've had the pleasure of meeting you live. And I remember when I first met you, I was like, oh my God, it's like meeting a star because you've always been on my screen. I was like, oh, she actually exists. So it was kind of funny.
It's funny. We do live in a virtual reality right now. So we're wondering, who's real?
Yeah, exactly. So before we begin, Nina, let the people listening in, let them know what you're doing right now, like who you are and what you're doing right now.
All right. So I am a coach and an artist and an author and a speaker. And what I have been really interested in doing lately is unpacking this idea of creativity and what it means. So interestingly enough, I've just started reading a book on quantum creativity and trying to understand how quantum physics is the container for creativity. And so since May, I think I started in May, I started an interview series, which you know about, the Creativity Conversations, where I talk to people about how they see creativity and how it shows up for them and what's in the way and how do we get out of our own way to be more creative and just play with stuff, get out of that self-absorption that sometimes happens with creativity. Does it look good? What will people say? All the ways that we stop ourselves, because once we can do that, we can put aside those limitations. We can just have fun.
Yeah.
And if we're not having fun, why are we doing something?
Yeah. So everybody, if you want to find what Nina does as a conversation, you can go to youtube.ninalockwood.com to go see the Facebook page.
Thank you.
And then you could go to, hold on, let me remember, podcast.ninalockwood.com if you want to listen to the podcast, like the audio version of it. I've helped Nina set it up. That's why I know all of the addresses by heart.
And you did such a good job, because I did have a learning curve for that process.
Well, you learn easily. You got out of your own way for that. I can tell you that.
I tried my best.
So the off-camera people, I was discussing with Nina that this week I had a webinar with the wonderful Mavis Karn, and Mavis is actually 81 or something like that, and she's been having these conversations with people for over 30 years. And when you listen to her, you just get in this beautiful space of settledness, like it's like a stillness that you have in you, and it's easy for us to associate it to her. It's easy to say it's because of her. And at the end of this session, actually, Michael said, this beautiful space you guys are in right now, well, that's you. It really has nothing to do with an outside event. It's really an inside out thing. And inside this conversation, she actually said, and I thought it was just so appropriate for this conversation, because she said, dreams, if they come from inspiration, they'll show you the right next step. And so I wanted to, because I know that you're into creation and inspiration also. And so I wanted to have a conversation with you about that. I wanted to know, like, what do you think of inspiration and dreams and creation? Let's start with dreams. So that's like, I'm like asking three things and
That's okay.
Yeah. So what about dreams? What do you think of them?
Well, first of all, I think that some people are kind of phobic around the word dreams and goals. Oh, that's too much for me in my small little life, my predictable, safe life. Doing something that involves dreaming, oh, I don't know, that might be beyond my capacity. But I think being able to dream is, I don't know, I think it's part of that creative, that willingness to just play around and see what happens and not make it a personal statement about me. There's this funny paradox about making stuff, whether you're making stuff with your hands or you're writing or you're producing something, making a video, making dinner, that it's about me. But just as you were saying about Michael's point of Mavis, it's something that's already in us. So it's not that we're really asking the question, how good is this? How good am I? But we're pointing towards something else. We're pointed to something that intrigues us, that sounds really, ooh, let's investigate that more. And I think that there's been such an emphasis, at least this is where I've seen it, is follow your dreams. Well, what does that mean to people? When you actually start talking about the really practical aspects of it, what does that mean to follow your dream? Does it mean that you're going on a quest around the world? Of course, you can't do that now, but
Yeah.
what does it really mean to have a dream? And is it something I've always wanted to do, or is it just, let's see what happens? And maybe it's a combination of both.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, what I've seen is that my dreams didn't necessarily always look the way that I thought they looked. Like I kind of like, I saw that I'd have this dream, this idea that, it looked in a specific way. I'm gonna make stuff up right now. It's gonna be like, it looked like a house with, the roof like this, and then the white picket fence and all, like that's what the dream was. And that was the aim. And if I didn't reach that, if I didn't get to that, then my dream wasn't coming true, and that kind of like, I saw that, at one point, because I was like, oh, I'm gonna fall in love and get married, and I was like, well, why was that a dream? Like, because in the end, it really, like, I'm not married and I'm not in love. I am love, but I'm not in love with, another person. And I'm still, I think that I'm still living a dream life.
And so how do you define dream? What's a dream life?
I think that for me, I'd say a dream life is being at peace, being content, being present, Yeah, I think that, when I'm in that space, there's no need for anything else.
Yeah. Well,
I
that's a
don't,
gorgeous way to put it.
yeah, no need for that picket fence or that man or that wedding or that kids, or just like, I love being in that space. And the more I'm in this conversation, I, the more time I spend there.
Mm,
And
yeah.
it's gorgeous.
Yeah. Oh, I love what you're saying. I think that, when I'm reflecting on what you quoted from Mavis about dreams showing us our next step, that too requires that we just take a step back and notice what's going on for us and what's possible for us. Because it seems to me that I was thinking about this morning, is that creating things is not so much a capacity as a characteristic of who we are, and a reflection of the whole world. Actually, the way the world is, the whole universe is constantly in motion, constantly creating, coming up with new possibilities, new variations. And that space, that is so yummy to be in, because it's the quantum world of all possibilities, right? And when we're in that space, there's a flavor to it, there's a feeling to it, and it's not about us. It's more about what can be expressed. And if it's something that I think most creative people say the same thing, is that we're channels, where something is coming through us, and the more we get out of the way, the more it's allowed to be expressed freely, and with all the little bells and whistles that, if we're getting out of the way, we can allow to actually happen and take place. But there's a feeling quality to that. I think, for me anyway, what Mavis is talking about, that dream state, to me, it's that world of possibilities, and it's infinite. We can play with it at any time. And
Yeah.
there's always something new to be discovered in it.
What I wrote after, like, because when I write these quotes during the thing, then I write like something comes to me, like something comes through me.
Yeah.
And the thing that came to me was, get to a place where you know the difference between the knowing and the thinking.
Ah. So how would you define that? I have a reaction to that, but how would you define the difference between them?
I think that when it's thinking, I have doubts. Doubts show up. And when it's knowing, it's just, I know, oh yeah, that this is what I'm doing next. And I am playing with that. Like, I am looking at, like, back before I knew this conversation existed, the three principles is a conversation that I have with a lot of people right now. But before this, it was like intuition, they were like, listen to your intuition. And I was like, yeah, but how do I make the difference between my intuition? Like, I was like, I didn't know. So, but now it's like, it's really like, there's, I know, and then there's, I think, and I'm playing with that.
Yeah.
And I'm
I
playing
think,
with the feeling. Yeah.
yeah. So it comes from two different places, don't you think? Or it has a different quality.
Yeah, there's a different quality to it, but I do admit that if I start looking at my body, like if I start really pay attention to my body, one of them comes from up here. I can almost literally feel it on my head, on my brain. Like, it's almost, I can feel the brain. And the other one comes from here, and it's a warm, like it's my heart area. I guess
Yeah.
some people might call it the heart chakra or whatever they want to call it.
Yeah.
But if I look body wise, yeah, they kind of come from a different place, but they also
Yeah.
have a different feel, like you said.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's, to me, there are two things that I'll notice if I've gotten in my own way. One is that I'm thinking too much about the process. And two, I just forgot what the second thing was. Oh, I know what it was. The feeling quality of it. So I either notice, oh, I'm thinking too much about how this looks or what's going to come next or blah, 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 all my requirements and expectations. Or the feeling that I have when I'm in my own way is very contracted. So rather than being in a space where I can say, okay, let it come, I'm saying, well, no, it has to come this way, doesn't it? Or what about what happens down here? So I'm already prejudging the process before it even happens. And that's not a good feeling. So when I recognize one of those two, then I know, okay, wait a minute. I used to have a painting teacher who would recommend having 2 or 3 different things out that you're working on at the same time. And this was someone who was teaching collage, and she said, if it takes you more than 3 seconds to put something down on paper, go to something else. Don't think. And I agree with that. Is the more we try to make something into something else that we have an expectation about, the harder it is for it to just come naturally.
It's so funny because, in the an inspired year webinar that I'm working on, or that I worked on by now, the thing that comes up to me is like, it's like, just let yourself write down what you want, whether it sounds stupid, ridiculous, unachievable. Just put it down. Just like create it for yourself, play around it, and don't filter it. Like, don't put it through the filter of your insecure thinking or your good sense or your, like we have these filters. Well, okay, well, I'm not going to write this because this filter is, oh, I can't do that, or I shouldn't, or this can't happen. This, like there's,
Right.
and then we just, the more that we go, the more we create those filters. Like, but we're actually creating in that moment.
Yes.
But we're creating filters that are limiting ourselves.
Yeah. Go figure.
Isn't that crazy? It's like, just write it down. Give yourself permission. Like, I'm a writer. Like, that's what I was telling people. I was like, I'm a writer. The writing of it just makes sense to me. Like, it's like I put it down on paper and I let myself create crazy stuff, And I remember, I'm going to tell you, maybe 17 years ago, I wrote down that it was like, okay, here's how I want to live my life. I want to wake up whenever I want to wake up. And that was like in 2003, that was like unimaginable in my brain. It was kind of like, no, I'm an employee. I have to, I have to work and I have to get up and I have to do 9 to 5. And like, that's how it was for me back then. That was my reality. And I just sat down and it's like, I'd like to work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and on weekends I'd like to do. I was just creating just for the hell of it. Like, how would it look like? And it's not exact because, I kind of like recalibrated, but I'm living the life that I want. I'm waking up when I want. I'm, if it could be 5 a.m. Like, it has nothing to do with, like, today I woke up at 11:30. Don't ask me why. I have no idea. I'm like, okay, I guess my body was tired. But, sometimes I'll wake up at 5.
Yeah. Well, that sounds such like it's such freedom to be able to do what you said. Just see. Well, what's going to come out anyway.
Yeah.
You're reminding me of a story of someone that I know who was concerned about their love life, and that they were really longing for a relationship. They were fine on their own, but they really felt like they wanted someone to share their life with. And within 2 weeks, this person had met someone. And now they're very close. They spend hours on Zoom together because we are where we are right now.
Yeah.
And it was so clean. It was so clean. His intention was not, oh, poor, pitiful me, but wouldn't it be nice? And that was a different come from, a different origin point. And it made me think about my new studies in quantum creativity, where when we are present and we are coming from a place of, I want to say coming from a clean place, but what I don't mean wash your hands first, but
Yeah.
coming from a place that is in the highest place in ourselves, the most genuine, the most authentic, without it having any strings attached, that creates a certain openness to what the universe has in store for us. And I think that the universe is benevolent. We get mixed up and we're not so benevolent towards ourselves or one another, but the universe and how the universe works and how we're designed as human beings to be a distillation of consciousness at large and have it come through us in a way that is really emphasizing the beauty and goodness and truth and love. It's all possible the more we take our little picture of ourselves and put it to the side and just keep asking that question, what wants to come through? Because consciousness, the universe is always creating, and we're a part of that. We get to be, whether we call it midwives or channels or vectors, or that's who we are by nature. And that, to me, that possibility, that realization actually can really very effectively put all of the self-absorption to the side, so that we do have room for something to come through that has a very very attractive and collaborative element to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, even the difference between I have to and I get to.
Yeah.
Two different worlds.
Yeah. And it used to be just words, like, because I've gone through that, that years back, it would be like, listen to the words coming out of your mouth, because that's just the result of what you're thinking. Right. So the words that you use are a result of your thoughts. So if you can't understand, you can't differentiate that part that you have in your heart or the part that you have in your head, then just pay attention to the words coming out of your mouth. And then you'll start seeing, okay, well, that's thought. That's the thought that's in the background of it.
Mm-hmm.
And, as you were speaking, and you were talking about your friend that, just wanted to be in a relationship. It kind of reminded me, like I said, like I write down, right? So I would write down a lot of, in the beginning of my singlehood, because, like I haven't been in a relationship in many years. And in the beginning of, like, when I first left my fiance, because I actually was engaged, like I suffered because it was thought, obviously, there was a lot of thinking around, oh my God, well then I'm not realizing my dream. I'm not fulfilling my dream. So I'm going to be one of those that, like there was so much thought around it. And I would just write it down. And I, this at the end of December, I usually sit down and what do I want next year? And I've always done it. And I would reread these thoughts that I would write about being in a relationship. Oh, I want him to be like this, and I want him to be like that, and he should this, and he shouldn't that. Like I would write this whole list of
requirements.
Yeah, the whole list of requirements, and then and I would let myself write it. I would, like I said, I was always a no holds barred, just write it down, just put it on paper.
Yeah.
But once I'd reread it, it would be like, well, that really wouldn't matter. Like every time I'd see one, I'd be like, this, it really wouldn't matter. And this really wouldn't matter. So, the online dating thing has always been very difficult for me because I would just write a whole bunch of stuff that, my thought, my thinking thought would be good. But I knew in the end, it really didn't matter. So I kind of came to the fact that, it's more of an organic thing for me. Like maybe the online dating works for other people. For me, it's an organic thing. For me, it's not going to be a list of series. It's going to be, hey, hi, how you doing? Oh, I like you. Let's get to know each other. That's how it's going to be for me. You know what I mean? But I could see thought. I could see the thinking inside, and I could see how my brain would go, is it really?
Yeah.
Like it's like if you can write something down and then reread it, and then you'll know, oh no, really, this is not, I don't really want that. I wrote it down, but I deep down I don't want it. And that's what I love around this creation inspiration thing, where you can, that's why what Mavis says, like they'll show you the next step. So if you really listen, you really listen from that space in you that has no filters. It's almost like, I remember this phrase that I heard, which was, somewhere beyond right and wrong.
The Rumi poem.
Yeah. Like, I think, like, for me, like, I've been to that place. I've been to that place where there was no right, there was no wrong. There was just what was, and what worked for me and what didn't work for me.
Yeah. It's so simple, isn't it?
Yeah.
I love that you're suggesting or sharing that process of writing things down, because it can show us so much of where our expectations are and how they're not always that useful.
Yeah.
Most of the time they're not, because they constrain our possibilities. But if we see, it's the same thing for me. If I'm painting something, I don't know what's going to come out. I mean, I have some feelings that I want to share, some feelings, or I want to play with some colors, or I don't know what's going to happen. I just want to get in there and dig around and see what I can unearth. Is that you see so much about what you think you want versus what's actually available to you and what's actually showing up. And I think so much of our requirements and our expectations are about keeping us safe. We don't fail. We don't look stupid. We create something that looks good. People like it. That comparison thing, and as opposed to just being in that space where our thoughts are at our thoughts are almost the handmaiden of our hearts. They're not disconnected, but one is in service of the other. And usually being in our hearts are thinking, if we're coming from a heart-centered place, that place of possibility, I think they're the same thing. And when we're in that place, we're less likely to let our thinking about what should or shouldn't happen determine what we do.
Yeah. It's almost like I say thinking, but it's really, there are these specific thoughts that everybody hears. There are, the shoulds. Everybody has shoulds and should nots. Everybody has them. And we think that they're important, really, but they're keeping us small.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so, me too.
They're keeping us small. Those thoughts of I can, I can't, I should, I shouldn't. There's it, and it's not the thought that is I'm going to say bad, but I mean, it's not thought that's bad. It's that we're using we're using the power of thought to feed and grow and make these negative shouldn'ts bigger than what they should be.
Yeah.
And keep us from growing and being our full potential.
Yeah. Yeah, funny. It's like misusing a tool. It's not even like, it is misusing a tool, right? Because if we're following an impulse, an inkling, a something that says, come here, and we're just following it to follow it, then our thinking is not, well, should I put one foot in front of the other, or should I run ahead really fast, or should I keep my arms open, or should I? There's none of that. It's just following the thing that's intriguing, that's calling to us. So we're, as you were saying, we're creative all the time.
Yeah.
What we put on in the morning, what we have for breakfast, how I decide to arrange or disarrange my desk. Yeah. It's all up to us. And well, it's not always up to us, because sometimes, of course, we do get, and I'd certainly get caught up in my thinking, so it doesn't seem like a possibility. But that act of noticing that, oh, this isn't a very expansive place, and it's up to me. I can use the tool for the right thing. So I'm not using a pair of scissors to unscrew a tight screw in something. I'm actually using the right tool for the job.
Yeah. So awesome. What is like one of the most surprising thing that you've created?
Last spring, I think it was last spring, I was in Michael Neal's Emerging Voices program, and each month we had a different prompt for something we were going to work on for that given month. And one month it was do something every day. So it could be write something every day. It could have been, make something you were doing every day, and it was different. And then the next month it was do one thing that's going to take you a month to do. And some of that time I was like, okay, what am I going to do? But then it occurred to me, I was reading a book of poetry by Mary Oliver, who was an American poet. Beautiful, beautiful poetry. And I was really inspired by it. And I was reading it every morning. And suddenly I saw that there were so many things that she was talking about the natural world and being present to the world, and that I had very similar situations growing up in my life, where I got the chance to see things about life from a number of different lenses. So I thought, what would it be like if I were to make something three-dimensional that reflected all of the things that have touched me over my life? and not like a scrapbook, but something that was three-dimensional. So asking that question, what would it be like? How could I do it? The cool thing that happened was I wasn't thinking about it. Like, well, what do I need? I would like look. And because I do art, I have all sorts of collections of stuff. And so I thought, well, okay, this thing is going to build itself. And that's what happened. I found all these pieces of, I built this pagoda, if you will. I called it a cabinet of curiosities, and it was four-sided, and someone built me like a lazy Susan that was 2 feet square. So it was about 2 feet by 3 or 4 feet tall, and it could rotate. And it was the most fun experience because I wasn't saying, should this go here? Or is this go on this side or that side? It was like, okay, where are you going to go? And it would tell me, it was like, put me here, or put me here, or add this or subtract that. And I was just following the music. It was such a cool experience. And it was so easy. And I thought, oh, wow, this means I could do that with other things as well. But it turned out to be so much fun. And I put all sorts of things in there that said, I want to be in here and include this and add that. And I looked at it afterwards and I thought, what I'm seeing here is not a success story per se. It wasn't because it wasn't a reflection of how I had traveled the world or had met celebrities or, accomplished unbelievable things or made $1 million, but it was all about how I had been so fortunate to see life from so many different angles, from the lens of poetry, from the lens of music, from the lens of art, from the lens of writing, from the lens of dance, that I realized how rich my life had been. And that I've probably said this to you before, I've said it in different contexts, is that what I realized was my passion, my joy, my delight was to point to those things that are so beautiful that I just have to show you what it is. I just have to show you. And that was a really transformative experience, because then I realized, oh, this could happen in other areas of my life, especially where I think I'm stuck. So if I take a different question to it, then a different possibility of making that dream, whether it's a dream that just came in my head this morning or something that I've had for decades, it gives it room to actually be expressed.
Very nice. Cool.
It was.
I'm going to share mine.
Oh, please.
So I've been wanting to do these products. So this is a cream. This is a hand cream. So I'm telling you, as long as I can remember, I've loved essential oils. And I had a ton of essential oils in my house. And I never did anything with them except, maybe make the diffuser, like put it in water and put a candle, and it smelled good, but I never did anything about it. And during the pandemic, I actually started doing so many of my products. I'm doing my face cream, I'm doing my face soap, I'm doing toner. I dabbled in shampoo, but I think I'm going to stick I'm going to stick with L'Oreal or Aveda. My hair needs, a little bit more. And I just love it. I mean, I've done lip balm. I'm like, now I've decided I was doing candles, so I'm going to be playing with candles, and I'm going to giving candles away. That's what I'm going to be doing. And I'm just surprised that, how doing that. And I think that what began it all was me experimenting with cooking. Like I kind of like saw myself during the pandemic. I saw myself be a good cook, which, I'm 50 now and I've never really cooked. I've never it was like mac and cheese and peanut butter and,
The basics.
the basics. But actually doing these great meals, like I surprise myself, like I sit down at the table by myself going, oh man, this is so good. And doing that, like I saw this during the pandemic where I was like, oh my God, I'm also creative with my food. And then I started looking, and then I started playing with this, and now I'm playing with scents, and I'm like, oh wait, I could do this, like this cream. I mean, I found a recipe online that said non-greasy cream, and I put cream on my hands like daily, like 3-4 times a day. Like I'm a big cream fan. And so I was spending a lot of money on creams, right? And I did this cream and I put it on my feet, because now it's like, okay, well, I can put it anywhere. I know I made this. My feet have never been so good looking. I've got like these beautiful little feet now.
And who knew?
And who knew? And who knew? It's like, it's really a lot of fun. And, now I'm like I told you in the previous conversation we had, I think I'm going to play with painting. Like I know I can't design. So now I'm going to do paint by colors. And that was something that, I would never have done because it was, my filter was, you can't do that. That's not real. But who said that?
Exactly.
So I'm going to play with that too.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, that's such a good example of that, that creative nature that we all have and that you were willing to explore.
Yeah.
Just because.
Yeah. Really, if you guys are looking to, create an inspired year, just let yourself write the shitty stuff and the cool stuff and the crazy stuff. Just write it all down and let yourself be and see what comes through you.
Yeah.
And then you'll see there's going to be these kind of things that are just going to light up your being. There's like, right? It like lights you up. You kind of like it. You're just going to know.
Mm-hmm. I preaching to the choir with that one. I'm a firm believer of that. And I think that there's something so hopeful about making our lives bigger and more connected and more joyful, knowing that we're just here playing. We don't have to make it into a big thing about my self-worth or likability or any of that stuff. It's like there is so much. When you're watching a flower grow, it's not like you've got your notebook and your checklist. Like, is this going to be big enough? Is it going to be pretty enough? What
about the color?
Right. All of that. We're just like, watch, look what happened. It grew 3 inches, and we're watering it, make sure it's got lots of sunshine, but there's an idea that wants to be germinated. And that's true for us too.
Yeah.
The more we're aware that it's not really about us, even though it may be coming through us and it has our particular flavor or color, whatever. It's something that wants to come through that world of all possibilities, that world of consciousness, and be shared with the world.
so funny. You know what triggered when you said it's not about us? I was kind of like, it's not about the us that we think we are.
Very well put.
Yeah, that just kind of like popped into my head. Like we think of an us, like we think we have a story of us, but there's a whole other us.
Right.
There's a
Right.
whole other one that, I got to meet her. I got to meet, and I was like in awe of her when my mom passed. I mean, I got to meet her and I was like, wow, like I never thought that I could be this person,
Mm.
So there's a whole nother me.
Yeah. Yeah. The bigger, the one that's not defined by what you do or don't do.
Mm.
That one that has sourced in that infinite creative potential, in that consciousness that is just completely generative, that is expansive, that is connected to so many other things and so many other people. And that feels better to be in that place because there's no insecurity there.
I call it the space of love. Like I really think that under it all, we're love. We are all love. And I'm not talking about romantic love here. People, I'm talking about just love, this place of no judgment. We are actually there with no judgment at all.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you on that one again.
Yeah.
I've been doing this program that I started in November called Love in Action.
Yeah.
And I did it because I created it because I thought I saw so many people, and including myself at times, just shutting down, and some of that was fear and some of that was insecurity. And what we've been doing with each part of the program each week is that we look at something else, we explore something else. Where's the love in this? So we did one on the energetics of love, and then we did two on quantum physics and love, and then we've got one coming up, love in nature. So there's things like the sacred geometry and the Fibonacci series, and there's so many things that, as one of the people in the program said, it's about uncovering love. It's about uncovering what's already here for us.
Yeah. Nice.
Same is true for creativity. It's that process of uncovering, however we get to do it, that we realize that that's who we are. That's who we are.
Yeah.
And that's really cool.
So be aware, guys. Just like I love, like you said the word aware earlier, and I was like, yes, being aware. Like just not aware to beat yourself up. Just notice, what shows up in your space and notice what shows up in your mind, and get to that place where you can differentiate the thinking from the knowing. Like that, like what is inspiring you versus what is, shrinking you.
Yeah.
And if you're shrinking yourself, you're not in that space of love, because that space of love will always make you grow.
Yeah. And that same space of love will always enable you to create.
Yeah. Wow.
Most of the time, creativity is not hard unless we make it hard.
Yeah.
And there's something to me, it's an aspect of, after a while, words are just concepts that we're throwing around. But there is this thing, whether we call it consciousness, ground of our being, that divine mind, that's where everything is originating. And it has those qualities of love and happiness and compassion and beauty and truth. It's like they're all facets of the same diamond. And we get to be it. We get to embody it. And isn't that cool? Isn't that just so much fun? Instead of being focused on what can't be done.
Yeah, exactly.
To start playing with, well, what could we do here?
Wow, this was a great conversation, Nina. Thank you for
Mm,
closing the year with me.
thank you for inviting me. We're
So
closing one year and opening another.
there you go. So just for I know I told you, I said all your information a little earlier, but if people want to get in touch with you,
Sure.
how could they do that?
They can go to my website, which is my name, ninalockwood.com. I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, a little less active on Instagram, at least right now. I've got a YouTube channel, my Creativity Conversations. And as you said, it's also up on podcasts. So I'm on Spotify, Apple.
Yeah, Spotify, iTunes, Google,
Yes, thank you.
Pandora.
I think we're covering most of the
Yeah.
bases, which you helped me do. Thank you very much.
Pretty much. People just your favorite podcast platform, just search for Creativity Conversations with Nina Lockwood or by Nina Lockwood.
With.
So, all right. Well, thank you very much,
Thank you.
everybody. Thank you, Nina, again. And I thank you all for listening to this whole season. If you have been there, thank you. And I don't know what season 2 is going to bring, but it's going to be sometime in 2021. And so I'm still going to wish you to dream it, dare it, do it, and live the life you love. Have a good one. See you later. Bye.